Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cheryl Ann Ariola. I'm here to discuss Chapter 6, Topic 1, and it's about the role of ethics in human resource decision making. But before I begin, I'd just like to ask you something first, and that is, do you want to be successful? Well, I assume everybody answered yes, because that's also my answer. Well, my point here is, what does really a successful career means to you? Like personally, is it in terms of your wealth, status, having power, or recognition? Because this is exactly where our moral and ethic principles takes place during our decision-making process in order for us to achieve on how we define our own success. Just like human resource, although we generally view its main functions about compensation and benefits of the employees, but HR today is tasked with so many challenges, like fostering diversity in the workplace, setting the proper conduct around the workplace environment, and even addressing issues of inequality. Every company has this human resource ethic policies to address these issues because this can directly impact on how a company attracts and retains its talent. So let's begin now with the following discussion. When we say ethics, it is a set of rules that define the right and wrong conduct. Actually, this is our very own moral principles that governs our behavior, our conduct in any activities of our lives. While business ethics could be the written and unwritten codes of principles and values that govern decisions and actions within the company. In the business world, it is actually the company's culture that set the standards in determining the difference between the good and bad decision making. The next slide are the ethical issues that the human resource need to take respond. And if I may be specific, this could be long working hours, increasing work stress, sexual harassment, favoritism, forced labor, and even child labor. So I have here the six ethic guidelines that HR professionals can follow in order to master the art of ethical decision making and become a valuable resource for their employees. So the first one is to know the laws. HR personnel must be equipped with the knowledge about labor and employment law, aside from their own policies and procedures that can be found in their employees' handbook. We have laws in the Philippines that prohibits discrimination and harassment in employment. The Labor Code prohibits discrimination against women on the account of their gender and against children on the account of their age. HR professionals need to make tough decisions and hold employees accountable for wrongful actions, and that's not an easy task. And to do so, you need to effectively require confidence and authority, knowing important labor laws and compliance practices. Well, to give you to cite one specific existing law that we may not be aware of, I'll just try to explain this Mental Health Act, Republic Act number 11036. So this requires employers to develop policies and programs on mental health in the workplace, designed to raise awareness, correct the stigma, and stop the discrimination associated with this condition. Identify also and provide support for those employees at risk and suffering from this condition for treatment and psychosocial support. Well, there is also a need to prioritize your professional development. HR is constantly changing field, especially in this digital age. Our technology is continuously changing the way we work. HR professionals need to pursue their advanced degrees and certifications specific to the field. So others attend seminars, conference, trainings, workshop, and even continue their education in order to increase their competencies. It is also a must to be an ethical HR leader. Conflict between colleagues is inevitable in the workplace. Imagine, for example, an employee approaches and tells you that their manager with a high level executive has treated them unfairly. So, how would you handle that? A situation like this requires you to engage in a tough conversation with everyone involved. And being an HR leader means being confident in your moral decisions. And here are the three things in making ethical decision: commitment, consciousness, and competency. When we say commitment, it is a desire to do the right thing, regardless of the cost. Consciousness is the awareness to act consistently and apply moral convictions to daily behavior, while competency is the ability to collect and evaluate information and develop alternatives and foresee consequences and risks. Understanding where you and your organization stand on important issues will be critical in this process. But once you define these ethical standards, you can figure out how to respond any human resource ethic issues. Remember, you must maintain your employees' trust and respect. It is also important to understand conflicts of interest. Well, as we all know, conflicts exist because of two incompatibilities of a two person or entities with different beliefs, perceptions, and practices. But conflict of interest is very crucial and harmful to how a business operates because they create internal politics that distract from a company's bottom line and cause the quality of work to deteriorate. Just like the example I provided you, when an employee complains about his boss, maybe because the boss has favoritism. But do you know that it's not illegal to play favorites? Unless you are discriminating against someone else on the basis of race, gender, sexual orientation, or another protected class. We cannot change the law, but you can update your employee handbook to define and discourage conflict of interest. Your employees might be partaking in this behavior without realizing it. Because once you have these written standards in place, you have to make sure that it also determines consequences for employees who will fail to abide by the rules. There is also a need to implement diversity and inclusion practices in the office. HR professionals should set the standard for this diversity and inclusion in their organization. How? So you have to work with your colleagues in order to develop the list of companies' values and morals. Use this list to know what's important in your organization and make your employees accountable. Discussions today about diversity are often focused on recruiting efforts across race, class, and gender, but this is just one piece of a puzzle. Because in fact, diversity is about making feel people like they belong. Example, all employees are of course invited to the Christmas party, but if only selected employees will be just part of the exchange gift, or you have group presentations and you're not included, what will you feel about it? Diversity is everybody's invited to the Christmas party, but inclusion, there is an issue that only selected employees will can participate. HR, they recruit and hire a diverse workforce, but if only certain groups of people feel valued and included, then there's a problem. Keep information confidential is the last one. So from our identification numbers to medical records, HR professionals have access to a lot of confidential information about the employees. Any person working with any organization demands that they should be respected and not intruded. The employee wants the organization to protect his personal life, and that encompasses things like their religious, political, and social beliefs. So by making sure paperwork and electronic systems are secure, you can rest easy that your company's information is protected. As an HR professional, you also have legal obligation to keep everything an employee tells you confidential, unless stipulated or specified and discussed. In Philippines, we have Data Privacy Act of 2012 or Republic Act 10173. Part of this law is if you have a violation like unauthorized access, malicious disclosure, or unauthorized disclosure, if proven guilty, you will have a fine of 500,000 pesos up to 5 million pesos and be imprisoned from 1 to 5 years. And there is this section that has extent of liability that not only the company will be liable or penalized as well as responsible officer if proven with gross negligence and allowed commission of the crime. And if found guilty, this results to disqualification from the office. So for the conclusion, HR professionals that uphold strong ethical standards and strive for a fair work environment will maintain employee confidence and attract new candidates. HR ethic guidelines in decision making are to know the laws, prioritize professional development, be an ethical HR leader, understand conflicts of interest, implement diversity and inclusion practices, and keep information confidential. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.